Peter Zalmayev is the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative, an organization that focuses on democracy and rule of law in post-communist societies. Peter, good to have you with us. You just heard Rory Challenge say that elections are a foregone conclusion, implying that people care more about security, of preserving the independence of Belarus after seeing what happened in Ukraine than they do about democracy and freedoms.
Well, you know, there's a quasi-democracy in Belarus. Ever since Lukashenko came to power in 1994, Belarus has been a client state of Moscow's. Right. He's very much...
Well, he's distanced himself a little bit recently.
He's distanced himself a little bit recently because, as it was mentioned in the report, Russia's economy has been sinking, so he's trying to hedge his bets, and he doesn't want to, go down with the sinking ship that is Russia's economy now.
But you'd think that this would be a country that would be completely ripe for some sort of uprising and for a strong opposition, because it is more Soviet than the Russians. It's a state-dominated economy, an economy that is not very good. So why do polls show that people just simply don't put overthrowing the government as a priority of any significance?
Well, first of all, you have to consider that, for 20 years that he's been in power, he has pretty much cleared the political field for himself through a very sophisticated KGB machinery of intimidation and surveillance. So a lot of his political opponents have had to go into exile outside of Belarus. They've had to operate from Poland, etc. So there's really not the same sort of oppositional potential.
I mean, in fact, there hasn't been anyone in the opposition in parliament since the 1990s.
Exactly.
And by his own admission, I mean, he admits that he's an authoritarian. He's not shy about it. So, Condoleezza Rice said 10 years ago this was the last dictatorship in Europe. Is that still a fair description?
Well, if you consider Russia part of Europe, then I guess that's not a fair description. I guess Russia is very much still there. But, for many years, Russia, in fact, used Belarus as a sort of polygon, as a testing ground for some of the, things that we are now witnessing in Putin's Russia.
And Rory also brought up Lukashenko becoming this peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine, and a couple of the most important agreements in that conflict have happened in Minsk. So are Western leaders shying away from criticizing him? And I know the U.S. does fund some NGOs that are, opposition to Lukashenko, but are people shying away because he's taking this sort of more middle, peacemaker role?
I think they haven't, because they've had their arms full with this incredible situation in Ukraine. This is the worst conflict in Europe following the war in Yugoslavia. So they've had their hands full, and I think Lukashenko scored a significant coup for himself. It's been a significant prestige project for himself, because, mind you, President Hollande and Chancellor Merkel, they were the first two top European leaders to have visited Belarus in many, many years. So this has been a significant political coup for
Do you see any hope for the opposition?
Well, I don't think that, in this presidential election, we will see anything much different. I think it's for the foreseeable future, we'll see more of the same. I think it's still Moscow who calls the shots in Belarus.
And with him looking for more prestige, do you think there might be at least an improvement in the human rights situation?
Well, there's been a little bit of that already. He has had to release a group of political prisoners, but I think that the essence of Lukashenko's regime will remain unchanged.